Welcome to On the Entrepreneur's Journey, the show where we explore how founders build companies that scale, create enterprise value, and become less dependent on the owner. My guest today is Dan Pereira, founder of JX, a technology and digital transformation firm that helps organizations design and deploy intelligent systems, including AI-driven workflows, automation, custom enterprise platforms, data dashboards, learning platforms, and scalable software infrastructure. This is a timely conversation because almost every business owner I speak with is trying to understand what AI and digital transformation actually means for their company. They know that technology matters, they know the pace of change is accelerating, but many are not sure where to begin, what to prioritize, or how to separate real transformation from expensive distraction. What I appreciated in my conversations with Dan is that he does not start with the tool. He starts with the business problem, the people affected by the change, and the operating outcome the company is trying to create. Dan's view is that technology is no longer about building software, it's about designing systems that shape how organizations actually operate. So in this conversation, we'll talk about AI adoption, human-centered design, employee anxiety around technology, which is a big problem these days, and what companies need to get right before AI can create value, and how Dan is scaling JX while helping clients modernize the way they work. So Dan, welcome to On the Entrepreneur's Journey.
Pleasure is mine, Peter. Thank you for the fantastic introduction.
You're welcome. So you're not a conventional guest. You have a worldwide story. So let's start with your story. You were born in Sri Lanka, educated in Australia and raised there, and built your career around enterprise design, technology, and digital transformation. So how did your journey begin, and how did that lead you to start JX?
Oh,
So, yeah, that's about 30 years of your life, I realize.
no, I love it. I mean, it's all about stories, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone says. So, of course, I'm gonna reiterate of what you just mentioned, where I was born and educated and raised, and then where I am today. I come from a hugely enterprise background, like especially in Australia, working with the big four banks, the Department of Justice, also one of the biggest banks in US, which is Bank of America, hugely enterprise kind of exposure. And I saw, I was, of course, I mean, my journey started as being an employee first, and then
Hmm.
became a consultant, and then that's where I saw this, and I was part of this enterprise journey. I saw this gap on mid-market, mid-market businesses. They're left behind with proper digital transformation, and it helped me while I was kind of engaging with enterprise as well as mid-market, businesses. What's that gap? Why nobody's addressing it, right? And also, it built me confident, like I can do something about it, right? I'm not just has to be just a single man who's trying to guide these enterprises to do better. I can actually do this for a mid-market, businesses as well. And that's the start. That's where the actual kind of aha moment and how to build that bridge between enterprises thinking for the mid-market accessibility, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So now operating across Australia, Europe, Sri Lanka, and US, being the head office now, and it wasn't linear. The journey was not linear, and every step build that. Every step that I took, every step for the expansion, build credibility. That makes what we do possible today, to be honest, Peter.
Hmm. So, um, similar in some ways to my journey, which is big companies. It sounds like there's an sort of an altruistic angle to this, which is, the big guys are getting the best advice, and they're benefiting from technology. They can afford to do it, and the middle market companies are not. And was that sort of a did you feel like you wanted to bring that to them as a point of just sort of an ideological point that you wanted to help smaller companies and the real economy sort of benefit from your work?
Simple answer is yes. And moreover, to that point, what I saw is that mid-market companies are the ones scaling, always scaling, because they passed the barrier being a smaller company. Now we have more employees. Now more processes has to be in play, but they are growing fast and they are going in grow when they grow because they don't have proper systems in play. They just go on it just rabbit holes growth
Chaos.
and
Yeah.
and 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 they're all getting siloed, and then when they become enterprise they're like, oh, we should have done this about years ago. What enterprises are solving now can be solved at the stage of growth for the mid-market company, right?
Mm,
That's what I saw. And another thing is they're like, oh my god, if you had to do something like that, it's going to cost us like an enterprise, like it'll cost us as much as for an enterprise that'll cost for them. No, you don't have to. You can it's the same methodology. You basically slice and dice and fit into to that mid-market company, and it's not gonna cost them a lot of money because now it's catered and customized to your size of business to solve your problem.
right. Right. And that kind of dovetails to my next question, which is you say technology is not just about building software, it's about designing intelligent systems that shape how organizations operate. And so when you say that, what do you mean by that? And why is that distinction so important for middle market businesses today, business owners today?
See, it's the best way to put this together is that a lot of mid-market businesses that they are misunderstanding technology.
Mm-hmm.
They are not understanding the technology and the business. They think it's two different things. That's one of the biggest mistakes they do. And they think, oh my God, we are intimidated by technology. It's constantly growing, constantly doing things that we can't even understand or fathom about what to do next, and they kind of keep it aside and do a lot of things the way they used to do, either manually, either being a uh, business owner, being an entrepreneur, solopreneur at the start, and now you have staff and you have departments, and they're like, oh, I have enough people to do that, so I'm keeping technology aside. I'm not ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is that because of that misunderstanding, they are actually pushing the technology away as far as possible, and they have too far gone without it. Now you have to use it. It's going to increase. I mean, it's basically cost them a lot more money after that, and because now you're trying to figure out a system to buy off the shelf or what to do, and that gap is the biggest. I believe that's the biggest challenge for the mid-market owners, not being aware of how the technology and the business goes hand in hand.
Right. Right. So if you're going to you encounter a business owner like that, and a lot of them are in the audience, and they're thinking that way because they are thinking separately, my business and the technology, and
Mhm.
not looking at it as sort of accretive and integrated. What are the first steps that you do to in terms of getting them ready to make that leap into using technology in their businesses earlier?
So we always start with the problem. We always
Mhm.
start with the problem. We don't start with technology. And
Mhm.
I just wanted to add one thing for your previous question as well. And people think just by getting some technology, including AI, right? And then
Mhm.
we just get AI and use it. And they think it's gonna solve problems. But actually, no, it's going to increase more problems. That's what's going to happen. And then dive down. Now we dive into the question now of that, how. It's basically how we do it. We start with the problem. We always start with the problem. And as you mentioned before, the human-centered design methodology, we call it double diamond, which is discover, define, and design and deliver. We do not touch a project without discovering your problems, your organization, your processes, your people. Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, no matter what technology that you're getting, the people has to still use it. And if you don't actually get them involved at the start, understanding their problems, you're basically ignoring all of them and spending money on something that users always neglect or push away and go back to how they've been using, and that money just down in the drain.
Right, right. So
So
you have to get buy-in from the employees as a big
absolutely.
part of what you're doing to make sure that the technologies gets adopted. And
Absolutely. So we always start with the problem during the discovery phase that we map every workflow and every data flow and also the every system touch points. Now I call it like horizontal flows and vertical steps. So we have multiple touch points on the horizontal level of your workflow, and we understand of each touch point. Let's say we are onboarding a customer, we are onboarding your employee, we are actually entering data of a customer to a CRM, whatever that single touch point. Okay, what are the steps you go through that? What are the repetitive tasks that you do that as well? So we understand, that's our discovery, that's looking into the problem. Where are your pain points are, where are your gaps are, why are you doing these repetitive tasks? Then do you really need AI, or is it something that AI can solve? And just don't bring in AI or any technology just because technology exists. You do it where it's required.
hmm hmm. So this is very interesting because it dovetails with a lot of things I see as companies go from founder-led to more systemization, specialization of their people. So let's say a company's going through that and they're saying, I need to document my processes. I need to define them. I need to ingrain them in my people. I need to make them repeatable. I need to make them efficient. And it sounds like that is a really good moment for you to come in because you're going to be able to not only make the playbooks per se and understand the flows, but also enhance the efficiencies by marrying technology with them. Am I on the right track?
Absolutely, you're on the right track, Peter. You're
Yeah,
absolutely on the right track. Yes.
yeah,
And what happens is, if for that statement or that question, most of the time, people these days, AI is available, so they're actually using all these tools out there and try to figure it out. And when they figure it out, they get AI to do something. I'm not going to go into details of data.
right.
We'll talk about it later. But at the starting point of it, as to your point of workflow, right? And this is part of our discovery as well. And you need to really redefine, not define, redefine, because now the technology is evolving so rapidly. Now redefine what is, like, as an individual employee, I'm a manager, I'm a supervisor, even I'm the office, like I'm just an admin. I need to really looking into my workflow. What do I do Monday to Friday? What do I do Monday 9 to 5? What do I do from 9 to 12 before lunch, after lunch? You break that. That's your workflow. And then you realize, oh, what are the things I do repeatedly every hour, every quarter of a day, every week? And then monthly, I understand how many things that I'm how many repetitive tasks that I need to do, and that's is that where my biggest pain point is. Now while I'm doing that, I'm copying something from one system and pasting into another system and then uploading to another system, and all these things are happening. That's one of the biggest pain points currently we have it in the industry, regardless whether you're technology or not. That's one of the biggest problems. Integration is a huge problem, right? Non-integration. So when you understand that flow, then it'll give you the clear visual perspective of your gaps, which is your pain points.
Mm,
As soon as you understand that, you realize that what I've been complaining to my manager or my boss, and it's maybe actually not the problem. The problem is something else. So
mm,
if I fix that problem, I don't have to complain to my boss that I have to do this over and
mm,
over again.
mhm, mhm,
Right?
mhm,
So understanding that is very, very critical. You can start high level from a management leadership level, and then you can bring it down to cascade it down all the way to your lowest level of employment, workforce, and all that. And you can do it the other way as well. I always recommend talk to your staff who's doing the repetitive hardest labor. You make that easier, that's where you grow faster because
Mhm.
that's the engine of your company,
Mhm.
right? So the leadership have enough information, data to make better decisions after all, because now the operational staff are more efficient, more productive, more time to do what they do best.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, um, I find myself in the middle of that moment very often in my coaching because where I usually get brought in is when a founder-led company levels off as the business outstrips the capacity of the owner, and then the systemization and the specializations follows, delegating, hiring the CFO, hiring the sales people, and then from that generally flows the processes that actually have to follow, the building out of those functions, and this, this bringing that into the technology in at that moment, I just think is a really well, it's an aha moment for me. So I'm here as I look at it. So that's interesting. And then of course, going to the employee side, and you're talking about adoption too. There is, and I think there's a lot of fear mongering around technology and AI, specifically around jobs getting displaced. I happen to believe that with technology waves, it generally creates jobs, and I'm not as worried. But there are a lot of people saying, we're going to need a universal basic income and all that sort of stuff. So there's fear in sort of the workforce. So tell me a little bit about the human component of getting people to buy off and getting them to embrace what you're doing when you come into a company. And what do you
So
encounter when you come in? Do you encounter that fear?
absolutely, yes. And the fear is real and it is legitimate. And I don't want to lie about that. I mean, it
Yeah,
is very real. People are afraid of losing their jobs. That's period. I mean, eh, anxiety is something that we all go through every day about what's happening around the world, to what's happening to me because of that's happening in the world. Right? It can
right.
be anything. So during our discovery process, especially we what we do is we include something called empathy mapping, right? We call it
Mm-hmm.
empathy mapping, and then that empathy mapping basically is understanding how that this automation, AI or not, doesn't matter. I mean, to crying out loud, Peter, we have a client in Bakersfield that um, when I walked into their office, right, I asked them to, can I see one of your clients, right? And he actually walked into a filing cabinet and brought a physical paper. This is less than a year ago, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is in California. So
Mm-hmm.
walk back and I say, oh, here's one of my clients. And I'm like, so you have computers in this office? Oh, that's only for email. So what I'm trying to say is that you're understanding that automation affect people doing their work, not just the workflow. It's really you really need to understand who the people are, like who you're working with. Number one, who's the client owner, who's the owner of the company, and who's the CEO, who's the leadership. That how they operate, their mind is very very important because if you don't get your buy-in early on, not as a leadership perspective, as a your employee perspective, you're not really going to be successful after the automation or the transformation happens. So when I say that empathy mapping, we really understand, okay, what are your biggest pain points? If we do this, or when we are going to do that, which we are going to do it anyway because we need to automate our processes because this is eating our money and leakage and whatever it is. So
Mm-hmm.
employees cannot make the final call. Of course, the leadership has to, but
Right.
you ask them and say, this transformation only going to reduce your pain points later on, right? Which you're complaining about right now. That's going to give you more time to do things for us to grow as a company. So it's a narrative. So the empathy mapping is more around like understanding pain points, your anxieties, what you do every day, what you like, what you don't like. It's like creating a persona out of it. And when you do that, it's it gives us as how we design the solution so it's less resistant at the time of change management, at the time of delivery, at the time of implementation. Most of the time, systems fail not because of systems bad. Systems fail because you have bad change management, bad delivery, bad implementation, no proper training. You just dump something on them without consulting them at all. Most of the time, rejection comes. And the thing is, we never ever automate a role or any kind of a job process without understanding what they're doing day to day and what they really do, and also get their feedback at the start of like what let's take an example. Let's say that somebody's copying something from one system and pasting into another system and then submit it through somewhere, and it really doesn't work. It's clunky, it's all these problems. Now,
Right.
if you really go and ask them, like they will say, this is the problem, fix it, right? They'll say, we don't. But if you really ask them, like, how do you do it right now? Because it's so clunky. I guarantee 99%, 9% of the time, they have found another way to do it better. They have.
Right.
100%. Now, I would say 100% if they have
Yeah.
found another way. You ask them and they'll give you the solution for you. You ask your employee, they give the solution for you because they've been doing this for years without you knowing it. Because the job gets done, you're happy. That's the trigger point for them. Ask them, how do you do it now? How do you manage to do this all this time? Trust me, they have found another way, much easier way, without using those systems to get the job done.
Yeah. Right. 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 Interesting. Interesting. But okay, so give take that example. Take a middle market company example of how you've helped automate and what are the outcomes when a leadership team comes to you? Are you saving time? Are you are you you talk about enabling people to think on bigger issues? What's the ROI look like when you come in and give us an example of a test a case, a real world case where you actually came in and what was the ROI on it and what did it look like?
I'm gonna take I'll take a manufacturing client, one of our clients who's in Southern California, and they're mid-size, of course, made in USA. Everything it's actually manufacturing here, including ingredients. I would say made in California.
Hmm.
They're about 45. I would say now about 60 employees altogether. They had three production lines and two facilities right next to each other. So during our discovery, we found out like there are five manual workflows that consuming close to 40 to 50 hours, right? And they are all skill labor every week, just use like it's just manual operating without automating at all. And that's eating them alive from production lead time to delivery time to everything, purchase orders coming in. So reporting, I would say, from what we were looking at during the discoveries, like production reporting, supply communication, uh, quality documentation, inventory handling, as well as the exception handling for that, invoicing or invoice processing. They are all like that. They don't need expertise. Like you don't need intelligent expertise to do this. These are repetitive works. You just press a
Hmm.
button, copy paste, send it to someone. These are all like and it requires a lot of time. It requires.
Hmm.
So what we did was we actually deployed like five connected AI agents. I would say AI models. I don't want to use agents because it's been that word AI agents been thrown into this people like candies, or use that word. But AI agent does very different things to ChatGPT as a large language model.
Right.
Have
Right.
different models. I don't want to go into that technical jargon. So I
Yeah.
would I would call these like they behaved as agents because they are not only going to do rule-based kind of AI automation. We've also given them a decision-making authority to a certain level because we have to make sure that human is on the loop. Excuse me,
Mm.
human is in the loop at any decision-making process because we cannot get AI to make all the decisions. That's a scary portion of it, right? We have to make
Right.
sure that we double check as humans and we'll send it across. So we deploy these 5 agents across these. We took about 9 weeks to get it all organized, trained, and then access to their database and their systems as well. We actually made sure there are all full audit trails in it, so that whatever it does, it's get logged. We always make sure that the human approval gates are put in through that. And because they are also ISO compliant, and we had to make sure that it is ISO aligned architecture as well. So we made sure how the data is protected, CCPA. We just have to be compliant, right? And then what we did is we actually um, automated all that 5 workflows with the agents. So now they don't have to worry about receiving purchase order processing, and it goes into their sales, it goes into their manufacturing, it goes to their marketing, and also it goes to their accounting softwares. So everything is now being kind of validated and also processed. Humans actually check it, everything's okay after AI does what it does, and then like let's say your accounts payable, account receivable,
Hmm.
your sales, all they got to do is now they get the summary out of this agent, and I'll say, okay, everything looks good. You just press submit or okay and approved, right? So
Hmm.
we did that, and it's actually the beauty of this is that within 90 days, right? Within 90 days, their operational costs went down to 35%.
Mm.
And then that 40 to 50 hours being like recovered per week, we just recovered, and supply responses time went up 60%. uh, Quality errors, or I would say any errors that you actually got to get it from purchase orders or even from invoicing, the disparity or discrepancies between the purchase order and the invoices, which they
Hmm.
use QuickBooks as well to interconnect it and so on and so forth, they are near zero, because now the validations happens before error occurs, right? And also, like I said, invoice processing now 70% down. Invoice processing time is 70% down. These all happen within first 90 days. And they actually recover, like return ROI, they recover ROI in 11 weeks.
Mm. Yeah. Well, certainly, I mean, look, the cash conversion cycle speeds up, obviously, if you're invoicing much more quickly and I don't know what you're doing on the payable side, but you're certainly able to do things without,
Oh, absolutely.
and there certainly isn't errors that have to be reconciled either.
And Peter, sorry to interrupt you there. And because we were talking about employee anxieties and change management before, I wanted to say something very, very important. That line that really, really, really stuck with us is that what their operation manager told us. She actually said for the first time in 3 years, she could see her entire operation clearly now. And also every morning before the day started for her. And that when she actually told us, I was like, wow, like this is what we call real transformation, right?
Yeah.
They were anxious at the start of it. They didn't know even what's going to happen, and then we actually kept them through the process of each step. Discovery, we did it together. We defined the problems together. Came up with a solution, ideation, design thinking, all that we did it together. So they were part of the process. We didn't take everything, went back and come back to the solution. Here, use it. No, we were we were getting them involved in each and every step of the way of delivery. That's what I think we call it real collaborative transformation.
Mm. That's interesting, and you get the buy-in, and I can see. So, I mean, to get to the ROI piece of it, and I love the human element, but to get to the ROI piece of it, I can see, quicker invoicing means and more accurate invoicing means getting paid faster. So that has a cash flow implication. What you're doing on the payable side, that you're probably managing your cash conversion cycle a lot better as a result. So that's one benefit. Your error rates, your manufacturing processes, things are much tighter. So there's probably less, error rates in the actual manufacturing process too. So there's and how do you use it to? I mean, those are all efficiencies. Are there any revenue implications for this in terms of, do you work on, other than helping operations be more efficient, is there a revenue side to this as well? Do you work on things to do with revenue growth?
So we don't we don't work directly as from a financial side of things. I mean, that's not our forte.
Okay.
Although I run my business and I know exactly how to financially like I would say the understanding of how financial works, right, for running a business. That I
Right.
know, but I don't say that I'm a financial consultant. But from a perspective of revenue growth, what we do is we map out after the first after the first 3 months we do a uh, pretty much like iterative, we call it like iterative testing, like a growth level. Where were you, it's like before and after, where were you before we went through this transformation, where you are right now, and what is this growth, just like the numbers that we kind of picked it out. Now during that time we also are trying to understand, okay, this gives you 30 to 40% of time for your this certain vertical of employees or your departments. Now you need to figure out, or rather figure out, now you've been wanting to scale your company to, rather doing 100 orders a week or 1,000 orders a month, to 1,500 or 2,000 a month. Now the next step is, what are we going to do and how are we going to do to get that growth, right? Because
Right.
now you have given time, you have capacity, that means your time, you have resources, right? Now that growth can happen. It's not about when you see the gap, oh, we should get rid of our employees. No, you need to grow so you can hire more employees to grow your big business bigger.
Right. So what you're really doing is you're freeing up the human capital
Abs
to focus on the business, which in turn leads to growth in many cases.
yes.
Okay, let's tack away. I think that's interesting, and let's talk about your business. You talk about having roughly 30 people, U.S., Australia, Sri Lanka, um, and you're developing products on your own. How do you think about well, two things. How do you stay focused? Because the opportunities are endless in terms of each companies have their own processes, and how do you standardize an offering so that you can be efficient at what you do and not just have to be reinventing the wheel each time you step into a company and get into your discovery process?
That's a very good question. And the best way to put it together is that, so we have presence across the globe now, and we manage, like I do most of the time, I do the client relationships and strategy and delivery oversight, and
Mhm.
that's me pretty much. Like when I walk in and people like, then we want to work with you, and hopefully you're not going to pawn this off to one of your account managers. And I said,
Yeah.
listen, I'm always one call away from you guys. Like if there's anything, of course, I can't do everything, and if I don't trust my people, that I wouldn't hand it off to anyone else. And I learned through the journey of delegation is very, very, very important. Letting go is the hardest thing as an entrepreneur, as an owner, but it takes time and energy to let go of some of the stuff. And by building a team that you trust, right? Building a team that you trust. And we, like I said, we have BDMs in Europe, and also we have connections in Asia. Like we have partnerships in Philippines, and we because we've been walking around, and I met people across the world by through travel and through work that we've done. Um, I uh, Staying focused really came through by elevating the people who works for me. And I always say, you don't work for me, we work together. I have a role to play. If I do my job properly, that means that I've given you a responsibility to do your part of it. And I call it that I'm like, it's like creating mini CEOs in their own
Yeah.
field of it, right?
Mhm.
So I know that every time I do a lot of, like I do a lot of other things apart from running my business. Like I do coaching and I do consulting in a way within part of the business. I always say that I'm not here to teach you what you do because that's why I hired you to do it.
Hmm.
I am basically communicating with you, right? Telling you what it needs to be done. You go and get it done. And if I can't trust you to do that part, then you're not the right person to work with me. And I need to find somebody who can actually do that. Because most of the time, when I was an employee, I hated the fact that my boss never gave me a chance to shine or do what I love to do, or always pin me down or stay on the lane and don't do this, don't
Right.
do that. And like, I hate my job. And I always wanted to make sure that when I'm in charge, like when I start my business, I'm not going to do that because you want to get the best out of these people that works for you. Give them the freedom of choice to really break the barrier to do what we do best. So,
Hmm.
how I keep myself focused to do what I do best by meeting clients, prospects, keep that leads warm, and then try to close these deals because
Hmm.
I elevate the people I work with across 3, 4 countries, and I made them as mini CEOs. You're the leader, you're the lead, or you're the manager of this vertical design, development, backend, whatever, account management. Right? And I trust your judgment. And if you can't make a call of something that you need me, then all you have to do is call me. But if I'm going to make the call on behalf of you, and then you are going to do that because I make the call from my thinking process, trust me, you're going to hate it.
Yeah. 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 Don't invite me to micromanage you.
I mean, isn't that what we all hate? I mean, I
Yes.
know because
Yeah.
I was an
Yeah.
employee and I hated when my boss was micromanaging, like checking out every little thing. I get more anxious and I'm more diluted in my head how to keep my focus on because I feel like somebody's always like looking over my shoulder.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you give people love freedom and especially in a leadership level. And I was just talking to two of our we hired a couple of internships recently, one from a design perspective, one from a development perspective. And they're like, oh, well, how should I prioritize? I said, talk to your leader, talk to your leader first, and have a conversation because I've already spoken to your leader about what our prioritization is. But you can always come to me and ask about conversations where you want to be in the next 6 months, next 2 years. That's where I come in. But if it's operational, the operational reporting line, you speak with your leader and have that collaborative conversation because if we are going to keep the pyramid so sharp towards me, I won't be able to do what I'm doing best, which being around people, talk about what we do. Then I will be managing from A to Z. How did you do that? Did you do that? Have you? That
Yeah.
shouldn't be your job. So to keep yourself focused, I would say, and I would always recommend to any entrepreneur, any business owner, when you trust your people, and of course people make mistakes, but when you trust your people and try to elevate them, right? I think you have a much better growing business, scalable business because everyone working for the same goal because you give them that opportunity. Uh, I think and your work will become more fun. It doesn't look like you are actually trying to run a business. It's like, oh, let's do this.
Yeah, yeah. It's the self-managing aspect and the freedom that comes from delegating to many CEOs, empowering the people. And you're right. The hardest thing is the actual first time you really let go and you let the people fly. It's like raising kids in some ways, you
Oh,
know.
and the trust. See, trust is built with clarity, not ambiguity.
Yeah, yeah,
Just be transparent about it and they will. I come across most of the time that you create clarity and transparency to the point of that what they really need to know. They respect that, they'll work towards that. Rather, when you speak to your team and I should keep this portion, and they, I mean, we are human beings. They feel, and we feel energy if somebody's lying or not, or somebody's hiding or not.
yeah,
And I will openly say, listen, there are things that I cannot share right now because we are still in the process of clarifying that. But this is very clear. This is what we need to do. This is what we are doing right now.
yeah,
They will respect that and work towards it rather than, oh, what the hell is going on?
yeah. I Getting managers to that point and that's really the difference between a manager and a leader is somebody who can actually do that, and they have managers that they can, delegate to, and you can then lead well. That's great. Before we leave you, Dan, tell us a little bit, like if somebody in what is the ideal client for you to take in? If somebody in the audience said, "I like the way Dan is discussed marrying technology with my processes, bringing the employees into that conversation. I like the way he manages his company." What is it that what kind of a client are you looking for that you can serve best with your platform?
The, Peter, everybody asks this question from me whenever I go, like, what is your typical client? What is your typical client? And
I just want to say, so an audience member could say, you know what, I want to talk to Dan, but I want to make sure that Dan wants to talk to him too.
oh,
That's my
absolutely.
point.
No, Peter,
Yeah.
it's kind of a rhetorical thing that, and everybody's like, oh, you guys have a tech company, you're a software, and uh, which industry? And I always tell them we are industry agnostic. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you having your lawyer, you're having your doctor, I would say CPA, or because everybody needs those services. So we
Right.
are a technological company that we can serve any industry, and which we have clients across healthcare, logistic, manufacturing, accounting and finance, as well as others that you can name for.
Right.
So ideal company that would love to, like, ideal company would be a mid-market who is scaling really fast right now, or growing really fast. I should
Mm-hmm.
rephrase that,
Right.
growing really fast, and needs to have that processes and process in place, right? That workflows that they are really looking at. Oh my God, we are growing so fast. We are hiring a lot of people. We are buying a lot of equipment. We are doing this. Then now we have to adapt to this equipment software. We have a CRM. We have accountants. Like everywhere, right? That it would be the ideal client that who wants to bring all this together and have a single. I'll give you a simple example. You have multiple softwares running. They're all siloed. They're all in their own departments. They don't talk to each other. Imagine that you have a single sign-on, a single frame that can access all the system and communicate to each other. That's the starting point of it. That is an ideal client for us to start with. Sometimes these customers like, you know what, Dan? We've been using this standalone, sometimes desktop, sometimes not, software for the last 10 years. But it's clunky, it's not supporting us to grow, and the list
Mm-hmm.
goes on. What we can do is, okay, let's come and understand your workflow. We are in the AI era as well. See what we can build for you as a single source of truth or a single system that we make sure that your data as well, like your databases and data, is also protected, and also have a single source of truth towards that. And we build a ERP or a CRM or a mobile application or so on so forth, whatever the application requirement, and bring them together so it's talk to other systems and talk to your operational kind of operational processes very clearly defined, so that you don't have to grow without vision of that scalable systems in play. And one
Mm-hmm.
more thing, Peter, when you're a mid-market company, when you have your own software, own IP that you build, that the IP belongs to your own software, your EBITDA goes really, really high, because now whoever wants to buy your company later on, and if you're thinking of selling after 5 years, your company value goes really high too. So these are the clients, the ideal clients. However, we work with small companies like small SMB, small businesses, all the way to enterprises, given their requirement anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
ideal client would be that.
Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting that so much of this is now going back to customization. We had software as a service became, you'd have CRMs and they would do 90% of the stuff. And now you can really customize it, and you can customize it across systems and complexities too. And I think there's an unlimited opportunity for that
And and
to
sorry,
happen.
I want to add one more thing, Peter, before we go. There are quick solutions, which very cost effective, smart, and low hanging. I would rather say quick, low hanging fruit. Like the solutions with AI, we can bring it with data protection and like data protection in place, like I would say compliance in place, where we can, if you have a system, it's fine, it's working well, but that's scattered around with other siloed system. We can actually run an AI overlay, an AI model to overlay all this system. That AI will, you can ask a question from that model. Can you give me the last week sales revenue or sales percentage? And what has been our biggest lag of our production, or
Hmm.
where are we? We can do that as well. These are very easy, very fast return of investments, like that you can achieve from overlaying some AI models into your existing systems as well.
Yeah. And I have to now ask you one last question. So I see the demand, and I see the demand is infinite almost, because this technology is moving so fast, and it enables people to do so much, and gain so much efficiency. But I also realize that you're talking about transactional behavior. It's a project. It's coming in, and I know, and that enterprise value grows to the extent you can have recurring revenue streams. Have you, Dan, put any recurring revenue sort of feature into your? Is this a one and done thing where you leave and then you're off to the next, or is there a residual revenue stream that comes from those clients as you exit the
Yeah,
stage?
absolutely, Peter. All our clients, this is some of the questions, or one of the main questions that comes to us from our clients when we started signing contracts with them. Who owns the software in the end? That's one
Mm-hmm.
of the, like, who owns this? Client owns everything, including the code. Everything belongs to the client, not to us. And we always, I'll come, like now, this is where I answer your question right now. Who's going to maintain this? Who's going to look after it? Who's going to fix it if something goes wrong? We always give the option, because we don't want to just, it's like we don't want to force them into or lock them in to work with us only. And I always say that by the end of the delivery, we will give you an option of either keep us as your maintenance tech support, or a maintenance vendor, or you can always go to somebody who you already know, better, worse, cheaper, I don't know. And all we gotta do is all the logs, logs of the coding mechanism, logs of the design, how it works, the
Mm-hmm.
training manuals, we all hand over to them, and you can work right. You want to have it in-house, you do that as well. Almost all clients, they stick with us because we have built a really great relationship with them. So they're like, Dan, we don't want to go anywhere else. We love the way we work together, and we want you to take care of us as long as you guys there. I was okay, fine, we take it. So there's a reoccurring revenue comes from that. That's number one. We also have three products of our own. One is a HIPAA compliant uh, uh, medical clinics. It's a booking system, as well as uh, uh, insurance claims processing happening in the
Mm-hmm.
back end, integrated with few consolidated database providers and API providers. That's one of the products we have. We have deployed across medical centers, including Europe. That's fall under GDPR, and in US it's HIPAA compliant as well. And then we have a e-commerce platform where people starting with Shopify, for example, and they go with that, selling their e-commerce products pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And when they started scaling, when they really started scaling, it's getting more expensive to stay with Shopify, because their pricing structure is expensive. Also, if you are to customize Shopify, it's also expensive. What we have done is we're looking into, again, somebody's going from being a small business to now you're becoming more of a mid-size e-commerce business. We have a base platform. It does exactly what Shopify does. Plus, on the back office, we have built-in warehousing capability, integrating shipping across the world, not just in US. So there's a lot of bells and whistles that we built into for a mid-size e-commerce company as well. That's also bring us reoccurring revenue, and we have had a learning management software for a few years that we deployed into various businesses. Since AI has taken over in the way we learn and when we do things, now we are in the all those last mile, basically the brink of finishing up that project too. We've upgraded that learning management software to an AI learning management software. It's coming out. We're finalizing it in the 19th of July, and we should have the small business ready to go live by end of next month. That's also
Mhm.
something that we be in reoccurring revenue, and we will be because the education is changing rapidly the way we see it within AI as well. So
Mm. So it sounds like healthcare sort of design sort of product there for HIPAA compliant and medical claims stuff. Shopify all the way from the front end to the warehouse and things like that. Another product that you have, and then this AI education
yes.
as well. So that's kind of a separate side of the business. It's a lot of things for 40 people to do, I have to say. So that's good. Well, I've taken enough of your time, Dan. Thank you so much for being with us, and I think there are plenty of people that could use your services as they think through how to use AI. And I think you've explained very well how technology with the processes and with the problems and the people involved, makes a very powerful combination for you and a great solution for the client. So I want to thank you. And to the audience, thank you again for being with us on the entrepreneur's journey. And we will see you next time. So thanks, Dan.
Thank you very much, Peter. And you can always find me on LinkedIn and connect with me. And there's a lot of educational videos out there. So happy to be connected. Thank you, Peter, for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.